Welcome to the Breakfast Leadership Show, where we interview global thought leaders on business, leadership, and life. Here's your host, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, Michael Levitt.
Welcome back. I've got Adi Redzic on the line. Adi, how are you?
I'm doing great. What about you, Michael?
I am awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. You've got an interesting backstory, and the work you do is absolutely amazing. But just for the audience that's not familiar with who you are, give a brief bio of some of the things that you've done and you're doing today.
All right. So I'm a life leadership and business coach. I help people and organizations get where they want to go. Face their demons, grow, overcome things, and essentially, I have this slogan: "Have courage to live a life you love," and that is something that I think is sorely missing. So many people try to live the life that they think they should instead of the life that they're meant to. And so I try to help people with that. I've done it for a while. I'm a published author. And really, I think what makes me unique in this sense is that I don't really give advice I haven't tested. I have a unique story. I grew up through a civil war. I came to the US with $300 and a dream. And here I am today. Lots of people said you're never going to make it. You cannot do these things. It's, too difficult. And I told them, well, obstacle is the way. Watch me. And now I try to help others do the same thing.
That's awesome. And I love how you use the word courage. I oftentimes will say people need to give themselves permission to live the life that they want because they delegate it. They say, okay, I have to go to work at this job and do this and check off all the boxes. And if I do this and this and this, then I'll be happy. So they postpone happy. They don't enjoy their life because they don't enjoy their work. They for a variety of different reasons. And, definitely want to, chat with you about that. But the fact that you immigrated to the US, and as with many, people that have come to America over, centuries, they were probably told the same thing. It's going to be a struggle. You're going to have a tough time and all that stuff. And yes, there's going to be challenges along the way, but you have a choice. You say, am I going to let these, struggles hold me back, or am I going to work through them or work around them to get to where I want to be? And that's where the courage component comes in again, because if you believe in yourself, and everybody should believe in themselves, then no hurdle is going to be insurmountable for you. Yes, it might take you longer than you like, but you're going to get through it, and you're going to get to where you want to go, and quite possibly well beyond your wildest dreams. So I commend you for persevering and sticking through it. And I don't want to say ignoring those people, but at least, you heard them, but you didn't take it to heart, say, okay, I guess you're right. I'm just going to stay here and be miserable. No, you went, okay, let's tackle this and figure out what I need to do to get to where I want to be.
Absolutely. And, it's so easy to get caught up in what's not possible. I mean, our brain is designed to look for danger, to look for obstacles so we can protect ourselves. The thing is, comfort is, comfortable, but nothing grows there. Nothing happens there. And so, for me, it was, I had this thing as a kid. I wrote down, I will succeed. I had no freaking clue how I was going to do it. I mean, I was 17 years old. There's so many, you were 17 once, and you remember how many different things happen internally for all of us, and then externally, and the pressures and everything. But ultimately, it comes down to the attitude, and comes down to the question, I have this one life. What shall I do with it? Do I put my happiness, the key to my happiness, in someone else's pocket, or do I try? And not only try, but kind of look at it as, failure isn't an option. So when we don't have a failure as an option, what's left? Well, we find a way to success.
I love that. So if you're, talking with someone, or someone comes to you and, they're trying to figure out, what they want in life, because some people don't even think that far. They just kind of exist. So what are some things that can help people, figure out who they are and what they want to do and how to get to those certain steps in their life?
My big thing, the name of my first book is Own It. And the idea behind it is you have to be honest with yourself, good, bad, and otherwise, all of it. So it's really don't go left or right. So don't get distracted, but go deep. Look at yourself in the mirror and recognize, your value, recognize the fundamental goodness, and therefore the factor deserving to go forth and at least try to live a life you love. And it's really, the buck stops with you, with all of us. There's no one coming to save us, and life doesn't get easier. We just get better at it. So kind of understanding this and as much as difficult as it is, coming to terms with it is the first step. And then looking at the true kind of aligning, okay, what am I really drawn to? What am I really doing? And how much of this is the programming I experienced in my childhood versus who I really am? We are programmed within the first 6-7 years of our life. 90% of who we are is programmed. The issue is most often, it's not who we are or what we really want. So we have to spend some time soul searching. I had a moment in my life. Kind of what sparked the work I'm doing now is where I was at the floor of my apartment with a bottle of Jack Daniels. Externally, I was very successful. I was running an organization. I had raised $2 million. I was a star. Everything was just on paper looked beautiful, but internally I was miserable. And there came a moment when I kind of admitted to myself, I hate you. That's what I said to myself. And of course, most people, when I tell this story, they're like, you what? No, you can't say that about yourself. I'm like, yes, I can. Doesn't mean anything, doesn't define who I am. It just describes the place I'm in, and I have to find a way out of it. So for me, it was a moment of, do I continue living like this? And it was a conversation I had about, do I end it all or do I change it? And of course, I like, name of my business is Think Change. I'm a fan of changing things and making things happen. So I was like, all right, how do I go from self-hatred to self-love? And that process required brutal honesty. But that process also led to freedom. Because when you get to know yourself inside and out, you have a drink with your demons, you don't run away from yourself, it frees you up to be who you are, to pursue things. And when the obstacles happen, and believe me, I can write a whole book on how many I encountered, that's all they are. They're just obstacles, and you use them as a motivation to kind of get to the next level, as opposed to something that's just unbearable. As long as we're here, as long as we're breathing, we have a chance. And of course, like you said, it comes down to that permission. It comes down to that courage to do it.
I love that. And, having a drink with your demons is one of those things where a lot of people, try to outrun them. And it's amazing how fast your demons are. They could probably beat Usain Bolt in the Olympics. That's how fast they are. And instead of, running from them, it's facing the music. There's all kinds of ways to describe it. But, really sit down in a self-loving way and go, okay, why do I have these demons? Past traumas, your upbringing. It could be a variety of different things. Lack of self-confidence, who knows? And everyone has variances on what they are. But coming to grips with them and looking at them, and from a standpoint where you tell the amygdala to kind of hush up for a minute so you can just focus on looking at yourself and things that are going on in your life, can provide some clarity for you to make the necessary changes to say, okay, this is how I'm going to be dealing with this going forward. And I've seen many people, because I help teams and individuals with burnout, I've seen them make the transition. Once they get crystal clear on why they burned out in the first place, because you can stop burnout pretty quickly if you make some simple changes and things like that. But what's more important is figuring out, how did you get to that point in the first place so you don't do that again? And sometimes people do not like looking within. And I think even during this pandemic, when so many people have been working from home and they've been alone and they haven't been out engaging people as much, they've got a lot of time with themselves. And I think there's definitely some concern on my part that unless they know what to do, it could be very detrimental to them. That's why we're seeing a huge increase in alcoholism cases. We're seeing huge increases in marriages ending, a lot of other mental health aspects. And when I talk to people that work in the mental health space and in people that work with people and their mindset and whatnot, we're very concerned that the post-trauma of this pandemic is going to last longer than the actual pandemic does. And I think we've got a lot of things going on, now, and I think down the road there's going to be a lot of situations where people are going to need a lot of help.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that, if you think about it, we're living our lives, we're going about our day. Everybody wrote their resolutions, most of which are going to, collapse back in 2020. And then all of a sudden, the life as we knew it ends. It abruptly stops. And that is traumatic. People a lot of times associate trauma with major events in life, wars. I mean, I grew up through a war. I remember a bomb exploding outside of our window. Sure, that affected some of my trauma, but I had other events in my life that were more traumatic. So trauma, it's a shock to our system. This is both individual and collective. And then it's prolonged because it's a new way of living. So what do we do with it? So if I could give, people ask me, so what's one piece of advice you'd give people for 2021 is take care of yourself. Take the time to heal. Take the time to figure things out. Use this as an opportunity. Don't be ashamed that for some reason the life kept going like this and all of a sudden everything seems like it's collapsed. Because usually, that's where the analogy of the phoenix comes in. It is out of that chaos. It is out of that discomfort and pain that the best versions of us come out if we give them a chance. And so, I tell people, if you're spending money on doing other things or time or energy, reallocate some of those resources on working with someone. And sure, this sounds like I'm selling myself, which naturally I am. But it's really, people need to work with whoever they resonate with. But I tell people, find a mirror. You have to find the care and remember someone you love so much to do anything for them in the world. Well, make that somebody you. And to give that love to yourself. And you can't give that love to yourself or anybody else unless you take the time to heal, bring up some of these demons. And, pandemics, traumas bring those demons in our face. Our instinct is going to be to run because that's, human paradox. We run away from the very things that could help us. Facing them we can, and the wisdom there is, and this is, much smarter people over the ages have come up with this. The wisdom is that those demons are teachers. They're not scary. They're only scary if we make them scary. Fear isn't real. Fear is our response to a perceived threat. So if we recognize this such and we flip it and we say, well, hey, hold on a second, this is a way for me to kind of lift myself up, that can actually yield some really, really positive results.
Yeah, it's amazing when you recognize that and you flip that switch and you can look at things in a different way. And it's a lot to do with, self-leaders, and being a leader of your own life and all of that. And I know some of the work you do as well is, helping leaders go to the next level. And we could be leaders of our own life or organizations, but, what are some things you do to help leaders kind of get from where they are right now, where many of them may be plateaued and they've just hit this level? How do they get to the next level?
So we talk about, I say, let's get naked. I'm a big fan of rawness and truth, authenticity. Authenticity gives us the authority to lead. So as a leader, you figure out you want to be integrated. So every part of you, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're doing, what you're saying is aligned. And that has to kind of have a ripple effect around the organization. If once you reach that point, then you can collectively look at and say, okay, where is it that we want to go? So many organizations, I've done some work with diversity and equity and of course growth and leadership stuff. I was giving a training once and a head of an HR says, well, you don't always have to have empathy. This person manages people. And they were convinced of this. And of course, I'm like, no, empathy should and can exist in all situations, and it needs to. You're not a really good leader unless you can develop that, emotional intelligence. So the way I help leaders is look at their life holistically. We look at that. What is their why? Why are they living the life they are, and how does that translate to their organization, people they're leading? Whether it's a university, small business, large business, government entity. And where do you want to go? What is that vision that seems so right? Not a vision that we were pushed into, not we got to make money. Well, that's just what you do as a business owner. No, how are you really contributing? And what is the thing that pulls you? So that alignment of a personal why and organizational is where we sort of start. And then, of course, you build on the structures, systems, communication, methodologies in order to help people be effective. So often we see the narrative, people put the credo, they put a mission, they put a vision. And a lot of the times what I do with leaders, especially in the executive coaching arena, I call them out on it. I'm like, what is this bullshit? Why are you saying this stuff? This is not real. If you're not living it. If your people are not feeling it, you're not living it. And of course, there's then the lessons we go into addressing things like, organizational culture. It's like an iceberg. There's only so much that's seen and people focus on that, but there's so much more underneath that good leaders, great leaders, wise leaders need to actually tackle. And so we look at that. We look at the things like, okay, where is it? Where are you at realistically, truly, for real, compared to your goals? Universities are notorious with this. They write these things to make themselves feel good. Oh, well, these are our aspirants, these are our competitors, and we're kind of okay. No, you're living in an industry that is collapsing. You have to do something. You have to embrace the very point you exist, which is creation of knowledge and dissemination of it. So how do you do that? How do you stop paying lip service? That is how great companies are built. One example of Apple, Steve Jobs, 1.0, all kinds of issues. He's all over the place, whatnot. Steve Jobs 2.0 comes back, has a brush with, first time with cancer, realizes his mortality, understands that he wants to build something that lasts, that is quality. And he pursues that. He's not the only one. There are many others who decided to really lead. And that's where I come in, and sort of it's like inspiring in martial arts or boxing. My job is to support, teach some new skills, help the person become a champion. That also sometimes includes knocking them out, calling them out on what's real. That actually, while it's uncomfortable, it's like a, caterpillar becomes a butterfly. There's that moment of like breakthrough, and people go, oh. And next thing you know, then there's exponential growth. There's actually openness, which, vulnerability, Brene Brown talks a lot about, daring greatly, all those things. Well, that's where it's at. It's just, of course, there's a rhyme and reason how you implement that. A lot of people talk about, you just do it. It's not that easy. If it was that easy, we'd all be doing it. There's a process, and there's an internal process that needs to happen. So you brought up amygdala, right? So managing emotions, managing yourself. How do you respond to fear? How do you quiet the voice in your head that's self-defeating, recognizing that it's not you? All of these things in order to be able to advance. Some of it sounds like fluff, but it's, this. It's not there's a lot more to it. Why do people burn out? Because they're not aligned. They're running away from something or towards something, but not for the right reasons. Once you align yourself, life becomes lighter, and that places leaders in position to do good work.
I love all of those things. And when you have a strong, healthy leader that is leading by example, leading themselves first, loving themselves, then they are fully present. And going back to what you said before, the empathy thing, the strong leaders I've seen have empathy. They can be difficult. They can be very firm. They can, fire people and all of that, but they can still be empathetic about the situation at hand, knowing all the dynamics of things. And when you have a leader like that, people emulate their leaders, consciously or subconsciously. And when you have a strong leader leading an organization and the leaders below them are doing the same thing, then the products and services that company delivers is better, and it has a ripple effect on society. And the more organizations that do that, the better society will be. And even during this pandemic, I've been watching very closely to see how organizations are behaving. We're seeing a lot of them that, were forced to do the work remote thing, and some of them were like a little begrudging about it. And there are others that were like, okay, not only are we going to do this, we're going to continue doing this long after this pandemic is done. We're going to set everybody up with all kinds of different equipment, make sure that their workplace at home is ergonomically safe so they don't have physical injuries and whatnot working at home instead of just sitting on their couch or on the floor at the dining room table, which is not ergonomic. So organizations that are doing this, like, we want to make sure that our employees have everything they can do to do their jobs. And also, we're going to work with everybody to figure out when they're going to work, because so many of us became full-time school teachers during this pandemic. And we're going, wait a minute, kids are in school around the same time that I was working, and now I'm helping them. When am I going to get my work done? Oh, afterwards. So all of a sudden you start seeing, like, the study from NordVPN indicated that Americans on average are working 20% more hours since the pandemic. Like, that's not good. We don't need that. So the smart organizations are taking a step back, and they're looking and going, okay, what do we do? And what do we actually need to do right now? And when working with companies, I said, well, the first thing you do is call up all your customers and ask them what they need right now, not what they've always needed. Ask what they need right now. And if you deliver that to them, you're going to make their lives easier, which is going to make their employees' lives easier. And it just has a huge ripple effect on all of that. So strong leadership and the best leaders are not only impacting their company, they're impacting all the companies they deal with as well. And it just, when you have that, it makes for such a better society, and it makes organizations stronger, and it actually does a great job in reducing and preventing burnout, because everything is working in a more harmonious state instead of this go and asking people what's their mission, vision, and values. So they go into the boardroom and they read the poster and they go, our mission and vision and values are ... and you're like, it's like, you might as well put up a picture of Donald Duck. It's going to do the same thing. No, it's amazing.
And the big thing about it is, especially when you have such an abrupt change that is outside of our control, it's that listening. What do your people that you directly impact, and then people you impact through your people, so your customers, other businesses, society, what do they need? And having the humility to say, you know what, we were wrong. Or that thing wasn't the best. There's another way. I mean, I have clients that I worked with, and I encourage them. A couple of years ago, I created this concept of entreployment, where you empower your people to be entrepreneurial. Most people want that pride. They want a sense of accomplishment, satisfaction, internal, contribution. And that's why so many people want their own, to work for themselves. But sometimes that's not feasible. So how do you create an environment where people feel empowered to do that and contribute to themselves and the company? So I worked with people, and I brought it up a couple of years ago, and they were like, no, we can't do these things. Well, now they're doing it. And, in working with them, they're like, well, how do we admit to this? I'm like, you just admit you thought something was working, and now you realize there's another way. That is how progress happens. That's how innovation happens. And now, perhaps more than ever, we have such an awesome opportunity to reinvent how we're doing things, to innovate how business is done. The old 80s of burnout, you just have to rush and do these things, and maybe it's up to us to create a new reality. And that's, by definition, that's what leaders are supposed to do, is pave a new path. And right now it's a great opportunity, but it does require humility to say, okay, well, that's how we did it before. What's next? How do we do it better now? And engaging people, taking care of people. And that's how you best see a healthy culture. When you see people taken care of, they love working there, not because that's one of their gimmicks. Oh, I love working here. But you actually see people, they feel good to go to work, to log in, to check their email. then you know, okay, they're doing something right. Those people are being cared for. And guess what? When people are cared for, they're going to do even more. They're going to contribute more because they feel good. There's no that friction of, I don't like these things. I hate my job. And that's where we see change. When you have 75, 80% of Americans saying they're unsatisfied with their lives, it's like a question is like, well, what the hell are we doing as a society? This is not healthy, because that means our kids, we're just perpetuating the cycle. It should be reversed. It should actually be 100%, but of course that's idealistic, maybe too idealistic, but at least people should, 75% of their time should be satisfying. Especially, we've never been richer. We've never had opportunities that we do today. We've never had the tools to be connected. What's the issue? Well, the issue is leadership. The issue is having a vision that is actually bolder, that actually moves people and allows people to live, the life they love.
That's amazing, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. So, Adi, I've loved our conversation today. Where can people find out more about you and this awesome work that you do?
So, adiredzic.com. That's always the best place, or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on other social media outlets as well, but I think these two are sort of my go-to. I love connecting with people. If people go on, tell me they heard about my work through your podcast, they'll get 10% off of all my services. Part of it is, when you have your why crystal clear, and my why is making that impact. I love doing what I do, so I want to help people as much as I can. So people want to reach out if they have questions, if they heard something on here that they're like, what the hell is he talking about? I'm more than happy chat with people, give a free consultation, whatever it is that people might need. And then, we go from there.
That's awesome. And I'll definitely have all that information in the show notes. So thanks again for being on the show. I love the work that you're doing and the impact that you're having on society. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. Really awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Breakfast Leadership Show, part of the Breakfast Leadership Network. Visit breakfastleadership.com for tips on empowering your business and your life.